Welcome to the stream. Late. Oh my god, it's so late. Late on a Tuesday night. Reporting in for Higurashi Tuesday night to read another section of it. We will get right into it. I will not yap here to begin with too much. But back on stream here. Reading Higurashi on my birthday week? It's more likely than you think. That's right, the rumors are true. I'm turning 64 this week. I don't think I've said the same number twice every time I've joked about it in recent memory. Alright, so we won't need to recap too much here, I think. Well, I mean, alright, there was a lot of action. Last stream was a ton of action. We saw our guy, our new pro tag, Akasaka, basically is his name. He and basically Oishi had like their buddy cop moment where they went in and first they kind of just drove up on it, and then they're like, it only makes sense that they would be there. And I say the people that were holding, the kidnapped. In my previous stream, I made the slight mistake of kind of forgetting the kidnapping plot, but also not forgetting the kidnapping plot, but exactly who was involved in the kidnapping plot. And it was the son of the construction minister of construction, I guess you could say, which would make a whole lot more sense as to why he would be the one kidnapped. Again, in a couple of streams ago, it was the whole Rika being like, oh, it doesn't matter, the construction's going to end soon. And that whole freaky thing. And then we saw the actual meeting moments, because we saw, I think last stream, the second half was the high action moment. The first half was meeting with the informant. I believe that was last stream, unless I'm getting streams really mixed up here. I think the first half of last stream was the actual meeting with the informant, because there was the whole mahjong scene right before that, and then the actual exchanging of the information with the informant. Then we got a bird on the wall, I was gonna say, but that doesn't make sense. Fly on the wall, kind of sit-in moment of the actual meeting with the three families and what they were deciding to do. And so much so to the point that they thought that we saw Oryu Sonozaki be like, hey, we don't want to hurt the boy. We don't need to resort to the most extreme things, I think, according to her. We're going to kidnapping, but we might release. There was kind of like some wishy-washy feelings. Not feelings, but not necessarily wishy-washy even. But it was like not overly aggressive. Almost to the point where, unless I'm misremembering, it almost made it seem like it was trying to point out that maybe... Man, this is maybe me really inferring way too much and maybe inferring incorrectly here. But we saw the scene where Oryu was getting... this... Okay, I'm putting up the warning. Might be me inferring way too much, but I'll just come out and say it. We got the scene, I think a stream or 2 or 3 ago, where it was like we're meeting with Oryu with Dr. Irie, and he was checking up on her. She's obviously clearly up there in age. I'm not trying to be oldest or anything, but and then during the meeting, she had like the, what she's saying and everything. Basically, what I want to try to infer maybe is that in her old age, or maybe as her health is declining, maybe she's losing a bit of that edge, for lack of a better term, as the leader of these 3 families, which would then kind of make sense then if we know that at some point then that power kind of transitions over to Mion, seemingly, at some point, and then she then has to juggle between being basically a kid and also leading, being a figurehead for this village. But then again, maybe misinferring or jumping to way too much of a conclusion at this point. But whatever the case is, we saw, so that was the exchanging of the informant information, the first half of last stream. Then it was the high action. They were driving around in the car, and then they're like, hey, where did the Dr. Irie just came from there? Because Dr. Irie got scooped into checking on the boy because the boy was acting like he had like hurt. He was like dying basically. Got the doctor to come in. The boy thinks that really Dr. Irie kind of, there's like in actuality, the boy did do well because Dr. Irie leaving that remote place kind of tipped off Oishi, but the boy made it seem, or at least in the boy's mind, it was said that like he's like, oh, I bet Dr. Irie, or this doctor, he just knows him as the doctor. I hope the doctor is gonna go get someone for me, but that wasn't necessarily the case. Irie actually didn't like try to like inform, from what I remember seeing, so it was just coincidence. So yeah, high action. Then we got a choice we made. I ended up picking the right choice, so good on me. Pat on my back. Then we saw what the bad option was, and he just gets got. And that's where we're basically at, I think. So we're just gonna read the next section. The Higurashi were telling me, the cicadas that we have here outside my own apartment were telling me that it's a possibility that there's not going to be that many more streams here of Chapter 4. We might finish like this week or next week. That's exciting. It's a quick chapter, a nice little itty bitty one. I like cleaned my, if you hear this, I don't know if that's being picked up on mic necessarily, but I like cleaned off my desk, and my desk is one of those ones where it has like a full layer of like mouse pad on it, and I actually really like it, and it's been with me for a long time, and I keep it clean because I don't eat shit on my desk here for streaming, where I keep my PC and everything. But like for the day after I like clean it, I like wipe it down and everything, and it looks nice and all. But then it like feels weird to touch. I don't know how else to explain it. I just sound like a weirdo when I say that. You know what I mean? I'm just a weirdo when I say that. Okay, here we go. Let's continue reading. That was my first time losing consciousness. I had to fix my hair. You often hear of regaining consciousness on top of a bed, but this was my first time actually experiencing it. I was taking a hospital, yeah. Hello? Are you okay? Realizing that I was awake, a young doctor called out to me. I didn't intend to respond, but it seems my body language had told him I was conscious. My head was wrapped in bandages. The scratches all over my body had also been treated. My sense of pain also returned with my consciousness, causing me to groan from the intense pain shooting all throughout me. Don't try to get up. Just stay lying down, please. It seems that you took quite a few blows to the head. Sorry, just got you there. I want you to stay rested so we can monitor your condition for at least the next 24 hours. Where is this? This is my clinic. Pleased to meet you. My name is Irie. I remember that this young doctor was the one in the car headed the opposite way earlier. Is there somebody here? Where's Oishi-san? Ah, I'll call him over. There's no smoking inside the clinic, so I had him smoke outside. Dr. Irie left the room to go call Oishi. The scenery outside the window was tinted with gold. Pouring rain had stopped, with the voices of the Higurashi heralding the cooling temperature. I felt that the tone of the Higurashi's voices was comforting. Eventually, I could hear heavy footsteps coming closer, which I reckoned to be Oishi's. The fog that was enveloping my head slowly faded back to reality. What had happened since then? What had happened to the boy? What about the reinforcements in Tokyo? The door of the room flew open, allowing Dr. Irie and Oishi to enter. So there's no serious damage, is there? I can't promise that. I assessed the wound to his head was dangerous the moment I saw it. Got it. I want to have a little chat. I want to have a little chat alone with him for a bit. Would you mind? Yeah, go ahead. Call me if anything happens. Oishi, after basically forcing Dr. Irie outside, shut the door. How are you feeling? I did something I'm not used to, so I'm pretty banged up all over. No! Oishi brought over a folding chair that was leaning against the wall and sat down beside the bed. Were the perpetrators arrested? Unfortunately, no. Wait, they got away? God damn it. They've probably already fled the prefecture, or are being hidden by the villagers. Well, we won't let them get away. No. What about the minister's grandson? They're taking care of him at the station. But your colleagues in Tokyo are rather insistent that nothing can be recorded. Shige-chan doesn't like that too much. The kidnapping was a confidential matter, so his custody was also probably being kept under wraps. How the kidnapping of the minister's grandson would be handled, how it would be covered up, treated like it never happened, would be handled by the brass. If this case ended without the nation going into an uproar about it, then her job had been done. The possibility that the minister had negotiated with the perpetrators couldn't be ruled out. But something like that was no longer my concern. My role in this case was over. Sorry for the trouble. You must think that public safety is rather unseemly place, don't you? No. We all work on the government's dime. Oishi laughed boisterously. When we first met, I was somewhat prejudiced against Oishi, but now that feeling has gone completely. It'd be more convenient for us if this case was handled properly instead of being hidden away. If that happened, we'd be able to have something to go at the Sonozaki family with, since they were behind it all. Well, if we just start poking around, we'll get all sorts of pressure put on us, though. What a mess. Are you going to continue the fight against the Sonozaki family after this? Nah. There are all sorts of dark rumors swirling around them, but it's not like I have a personal grudge. It'd be wise not to step on any toes here. No. Oishi laughed happily, and I couldn't help but laugh along. Oh, that's right. There was word at the station from the prefectural police. Your colleagues arrived at Nagoya and are driving up here right now.
あなたは名誉の負傷ですから、東京へ引き上げだそうですよ。
You've got your battle scars, so you're being recalled to Tokyo, apparently.
そんなわけです。
Oh, damn.
お疲れ様でした。
Maybe he'll end up perfectly fine at this point. Maybe he won't end up dying. You know what? Maybe this will all turn out well. He'll be able to see his new child. He'll get to Yuki. It's all coming up Akasaka. Oishi says that's how it's shaking up. Good job.
あなたの沖宮での仕事は無事終了です。
Your work in Okinomiya is safely over. I was being recalled to Tokyo. I inadvertently breathed a sigh of relief when I heard those words.
大石さんのご協力に深く感謝します。
I'm deeply thankful for your cooperation, Oishi-san.
あなたに支払った協力金は無駄にはなりませんでしたね。
Seems the collaboration fee I paid you didn't go to waste. No!
あら、冗談のつもりだったんだけどな。
I kind of meant that as a joke, though. Oishi took out his wallet, casually pulled out several large bills, and jammed them into the breast pocket of my shirt.
これは協力金の返済じゃないですよ。
This isn't a refund on the collaboration fee, you hear?
私からあなたへのお小遣いです。
This is just me gifting you a little spending money.
この辺は地酒がうまいんでね。
Booze around here is pretty good.
東京へのお土産にこいつで買っていくといいでしょう。
Use this to buy yourself a little souvenir. Oishi flashed me a grin.
もしもあなたの傷が軽いようなら、東京へ帰る前にぜひ声をかけてくださいよ。
That's an upgrade of a gift from Oishi. Previously, we'd seen him gift, what was it, actual porn to Takechi before? Some money, better. If your injuries turn out to not be too serious, call me before you head back to Tokyo, will you?
おやさんも佐藤さんも、ぜひあなたともう一度、卓を囲みたいと言ってましたからね。
The old man and Sato-san said they'd like to sit at a table with you again.
やれやれ。参ったな。
Oh my. Can't refuse that.
今度はこっちも小細工抜きです。
And no tricks this time.
純粋に楽しもうじゃないですか。
Just some plain old fun.
よく言いますよ。
They always say that.
現職の警官があんなに濃い様ができるなんて世も末です。
This world is done for, and if an active officer can cheat that blatantly. No!
私どもとね、対等以上に撃てるメンツにはなかなかお会いできないもんです。
It's not often that we meet someone who's more than a match for us.
あなたが東京に帰るのが惜しいですよ。
It's too bad you're going back to Tokyo. When I heard the words going back to Tokyo from Oishi, I was reminded once again that I was relieved from my duties. Soon, Yuki would be giving birth. It might still be possible to attend a delivery that I had one time given up on. When I thought that, the pain from my injuries became trivial. I wanted to hurry back to Tokyo and see Yuki at once.
少し傷が重いふりをして沖宮にしばらく滞在しません？
Can you pretend that your injuries are a bit more serious and hang around Okinomiya for a bit?
いいお店をいろいろ紹介しますよ。
I can introduce you to a few nice places.
もちろん、おごれなんて言いません。
Of course, I won't make you pay for everything. Damn. See, socially, this would destroy me. Oishi is in theory being nice and being like, hey, we really want you to stay around, we want you to hang out. And I literally, and if I was in the place of Akasaka, I literally just had the idea where I'm like, oh, I might be able to leave early now and be able to see. And now I'd feel bad telling him no. Because he's apparently trying to be so nice, but I'm like, no. No.
申し訳ないですが、それはまたの機会にします。
I'm terribly sorry, but I'll have to take a rain check on that.
妻の出産日が近いんでね。
My wife is due to give birth any day now.
早く帰りたいんです。
I want to hurry back home.
ありゃりゃ。
Oh my. Oh
それ
my.
知らなかった。
There's two of them. I didn't know that.
それじゃあこんなとこにいちゃいけない。
Then you shouldn't be hanging around here.
早く帰らないといけません。
You have to hurry back home. For a while after that, Oishi asked all sorts of questions about my wife, teasing and bantering with me.
さて。
Well then,
具合はどうです？
how do you feel?
おきれいそうですか？
Think you can get up?
ええ、おかげさまで悪くないです。
Yeah, it's not so bad. Thanks to you.
立って歩いても全然平気ですよ。
I can get up and walk no problem. I stood up and shuffled around for a bit, which seemed to amuse Oishi.
いえいえ、ひなみ沢の病院では落ち着かないでしょうと思いまして。
No, I just thought that you might not feel comfortable at a hospital in Hinamazawa.
入江の先生は一晩泊まらせたいみたいなこと言ってますが、
Dr. Irie said he wanted you to stay overnight.
犯人もまだ捕まってませんし。
Do not spend any more time you have to in Hinamazawa. You're just asking for trouble at that point if you're Kasuka. Oishi says, but we still haven't caught the perpetrators.
一応ここはあなたにとっては敵地になりますからね。
For the time being, this is enemy territory for you, after all.
この病院は安全ではないということですか。
Are you saying this hospital isn't safe?
まあ、入江の先生も多少は社会的信用のあるお人です。
Well, Dr. Irie is somebody who's well regarded in the community.
ここにいる限りは何もないとは思いますが、赤坂さんの気分的にめいらないかという方が問題ですね。
I don't think anything will happen to you while you're here, but I'm more worried about your mental health. I'd relaxed a bit now that things had progressed this far, but it was exactly as Oishi had said. When I realized that this was enemy territory, I suddenly felt uncomfortable. With leaving being the only thing left for me to do, the chance that I would come to harm was logically fairly low. But that didn't mean I was completely safe.
そうですね。
That's right.
横になっているだけならホテルのベッドでも同じな気がします。
If I'm just going to be lying down, then doing it in a hotel bed won't be all that different.
そうでしょう、そうでしょ
Right, right.
う。私もその方がいいと思います。
I also think that's for the best. At that moment, I caught a glimpse of the clock over Oishi's shoulder. It was the evening. The hours when I could call Yuki at the hospital were almost over. I wanted to tell her as quickly as possible that I would soon be back at her side.
ちょっと雪江の病院に電話してきます。
I want to call Yuki at the hospital.
ロビーに公衆電話とかはありませんか。
Is there a public phone in the lobby?
新婚さんはそういうの豆だな。
You newlyweds are all like this.
確か会計の脇にあったと思います。
If I recall correctly, there's one by the register.
ここで待ってますから、行ってらっしゃい、行ってらっしゃい。
I'll be waiting here, so go ahead, go ahead. Oishi, laughing while saying that he was jealous, opened up the window and pulled out a cigarette even though he was in a hospital room. Appreciative of how considerate Oishi was, I set out to the lobby to find the phone. The lobby was just a short distance down the hallway from the hospital room. I thought that this hospital was a bit too grand for a village like this, but of course, it was nothing compared to the general hospital Yuki was admitted to. Running inside a hospital wasn't the best of manners, but calling hours would soon end, so I dashed over in a hurry. There was nobody else in the lobby. It may have been the evening, but there was nobody at the reception desk. Well, this might actually be lucky for me. I wasn't planning to have a conversation to feel guilty about, but it would still be embarrassing to have someone listen to the conversation between me and Yuki. Taking a quick look around, I soon found the payphone. Digging around in my pockets, I grabbed a few coins. I was calling Tokyo from here, so I would burn through this amount fairly quickly. I picked up the receiver, inserted a coin, then dialed the number for Yuki's hospital, which I had completely memorized at this point. Whirr. Oh, I guess that's like a dialing with a like a rotary phone thing. Whirr, whirr. The sound effect. Whirr, whirr. Really glad cam's not on. I was doing like a motion with my finger as if I was using a rotary phone. And I realized that there possibly could be someone listening to this. I mean, I hate being like this, but like, no idea what a rotary phone is until they look it up. They're like, what? Rotary phone? Huh? What? A payphone? Huh? A phone you put money into? That costs, you want to dial 1-800-COLLECT? God, it was recent where I was watching something where it was recorded off something, and then it was also like showing you like adverts from like back in the day, and like phone numbers. Now, I was at this point when these were things, I was like too young to actually be like really caring what it was, but like phone numbers that you would call to then get good rates to then do long distance calling on like payphones. Seeing adverts for those, is just strange. That has sense. Anyway, the number for Yuki's hospital had a lot of 8s and 9s, so dialing it in inevitably took some time. Yeah, if you want to dial an 8 or a 9, it takes longer to spin the little circle. I've never actually been able to use a rotary phone. I want to do it. I want to do it once for the novelty. The novelty aspect. Normally, it wouldn't be a big deal, but currently, any time is precious. Though I should say, I've talked about this in the past. Generally, apparently based on my like YouTube stats that I occasionally check, because I'm just like actually curious. Surprisingly, but also not surprisingly, the audience I have on YouTube is mostly around my age. Obviously, there's deviation both younger and older, but like it's pretty spot on, at least for reported numbers, because there's people I can watch obviously that don't have stats associated to them, but it's just interesting to me. So maybe most people do know what I'm talking about and don't have to whatever. Normally, it wouldn't be a big deal, but currently, any time is precious. However, I felt that something was strange as I was dialing in the number. Wait, what? However, this is scary. I felt that something was strange. Okay, he didn't feel something strange. He felt something was strange as I was dialing in the number. I don't know exactly, like fucking Rika's just going to appear from beyond the counter or something. I don't know exactly how to put it, but it was as if the receiver was too quiet. That unique white noise from the telephone line wasn't there. Uh-oh, lines are cut. Somehow, I felt that I wasn't getting any feedback from the phone. Without feeling a response, I hung up the receiver to try again. The coin popped out from the return slot. I reinserted the coin and began dialing once again, but the receiver was still dead silent. What is this? Is it disconnected? I was wasting time like this. The amount I had to spend talking with Yuki shrunk. I began to feel needlessly impatient. Excuse me? I felt the presence of someone on the other side of the glass, so I called out. There was an immediate response, and a man who seemed like a pharmacist came over. Yes? How can I help you? Pardon me. This phone seems to be acting a little strange. Could you take a look at it? The man came over and tried testing various things with the receiver pressed to his ear. Come to think of it, this was someone who worked at the hospital, not someone from the phone company. Just as I didn't know much about phones, neither would he. What? Huh? What's this? The man held up the cord and connected the phone to the wall. It was completely severed. What the heck is that? Well, this is a dilly of a pickle. Oh, I need to incorporate that phrase into my language, my day-to-day language. Well, that's a dilly of a pickle. If I actually genuinely said that, it'd sound really dumb. I'm gonna be able to do it without laughing. I've talked about this before. I say oops too many times, and I feel dumb even saying oops out loud. I'm so embarrassed by my own language. Can't do anything with this until somebody from the phone company comes and fixes it. If you're looking for a phone, do you want to use the one in the office? I didn't want the people in the hospital office around while I was talking. Is there another payphone close by? Let's see. If you leave here and follow the road, you'll come out into the shopping district. I think there's a smoke shop on the corner around there. If you head that way, you should be able to find one soon enough. I was dressed in a hospital gown. I was wearing sandals on my feet. My head was wrapped in bandages. Just looking at me, you could tell I was a hospital patient. No matter how you looked at it, I was not dressed to be wandering outside. But that's where the impetuousness of youth came in. Choosing the chance to talk to Yuki for even a little longer, I headed outside in my current state. Follow the road to the shopping district. Should be able to find one soon enough. With only those two lines as my guide, I ran outside the gates of the hospital. Damn, something bad's gonna happen to him, isn't it? The whole village is gonna be able to identify him. I imagine what this is building up to. And it's going to be sad because this is all built out of excitement for him to talk to Yuki and let her know that he was coming home early. I don't like where this is going. I'm going to feel bad for him. Our guy here. This is obviously, to me, the setup of an obvious thing happening, or there's going to be a subversion, and he's going to be fine. Oh, boy. Okay. With the village nestled in a valley, when the sun set, it got dark quickly. The sparse streetlights lit up enough to start attracting moths. The Higurashi, knowing the time for their chorus was soon at a close, redoubled their fragile cries. Finding the payphone wasn't as easy as the person at the hospital had suggested. Was it still up ahead? Did I miss it already? Was I just getting further away? Oh boy. Just as I was about to be crushed by the wave of uncertainty towering over me, I found a shop on the corner with cigarettes written on a small sign. My joy spurred me onwards. Just as I had heard at the hospital, set next to the counter of the cigarette shop was an antiquated payphone. I wasn't wearing a watch, so I didn't know what time it was. Probably didn't have much left, though. But it was enough. Just as long as I could tell Yuki my job was done, and I'd be coming home soon. Picking up the receiver, I slid a coin down the slot. But I felt that something was strange, just like at the hospital. Even after inserting the coin, the phone showed no response. I hung up the receiver and tried putting in the coin one more time, but there was absolutely no response. This phone was dead. It couldn't be. Thinking that, I felt along the cord that protruded from the back of the phone. Doing that, my hands found the end of a completely severed line. What is this? Having now had the same thing happen twice, my bafflement was accompanied by a sense of unease. It seemed that the cord had been severed cleanly by a sharp blade of some sort. And I may be mistaken, but it didn't look like much time had passed since it was cut.
すみません。
Excuse me?
すみません。
Hello? Opening up the booth window of the tobacco shop, I looked for someone in the dimly lit interior. Eventually, there were the sounds of somebody plodding down some stairs, and an old lady appeared. The old lady's plodding in lethargic steps, for some reason, only served to make me more frantic.
タバコですかいね。
You need some cigarettes!
小さまでねんと、わがねのしゃ。
I'll need to get my husband!
タバコを買いたいわけじゃないんです。
I'm not here to buy cigarettes.
この電話が。
Rather, this phone here, realizing that saying the phone was broken and asking them to take a look at it was going to get me nowhere, I swallowed back my words.
この電話が壊れてるみたいなんで、別の公衆電話があるところを教えてもらいたいのですが。
Sorry, it seems that this phone is broken, and I was wondering if you could tell me where there's another payphone. The old lady moved her jaw up and down slowly as if chewing on the meaning of my words. It seemed that she didn't, or wouldn't, understand until she had digested things thoroughly.
電話、壊れてますかいね。
So the phone is broken?
そんな難儀だわ。
That's a dilly of a pickle! Why is everyone saying dilly of a pickle? This is when I would start to be really uneasy. He was talking about the severed phone lines making him uneasy. 2 people in a row say it's a dilly of a pickle, back to back. I'd be like, I'm in a simulation or something. This isn't right.
他の公衆電話を当たってください。
You should try another payphone. Oh, the voice. You should try another payphone. Now, the most cynical way you could look at this is that the old woman and the doctor guy, the pharmacist man that was in the other thing, maybe they're in cahoots with the village, and they're, like, intentionally cut payphone lines. And so far that, like, they're directing him where to go. And if he keeps going farther and farther, right into a trap of some sort. At this point, he admitted that this feels uneasy. And what are the odds that 2 payphones have severed lines? Like, at that point, I would be so cautious of a person where I'd be like, you know what? I was just told I'm in enemy territory. I'm going to be able to see my wife. Sure, I love talking to her on the phone, but it's not going to be for a ton of time anyway, apparently, because the talking hours will be over. I need to just go home and make sure I arrive home in one piece. I don't know why. God. Like, I know I'm like an overly cautious person, but like that just seems like natural thing to do. Whatever. I'm criticizing this man. The old lady directed me to another payphone that seemed quite a ways away. Her way of telling me was so long-winded that I inadvertently started to get impatient. At that moment, I spotted a clock in the dim interior of the store. The minute hand was just about to point straight up. Even if there was a phone right here that I could use, I would only be able to tell Yuki goodnight with the time I had left. On top of that, my destination was a remote payphone which I didn't know the exact distance to. If I was of a normal state of mind, deciding to give up the phone today would have been the natural thought process. But at that moment, I'd become somewhat stubborn for some reason. Unable to use a phone in the hospital and coming out here and still being unable to use one, there was no mistaking that I'd become quite insistent on using a phone.
どうもありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
その電話ボックス探してみます。
I'll try looking for that phone booth. Refusing her offer to draw me a map, I left the tobacco shop. Don't draw me a map, lady. According to the old lady, even though the phone booth was quite far away, it would be easy to find. If I just followed this road straight down, I'd eventually find it. Sandals flapping as I ran, couldn't help but laugh at myself. I'll admit that I was quite steadfast about calling Yuki, but there were days when I was tired or busy when I wouldn't call her. Even today, my entire body was covered with injuries. I was dead tired. On top of that, there wasn't much time left. It wouldn't be strange at all if today was one of those days I didn't call her. But, having twice been foiled trying to call her, had I become hot-headed about it? Was I like a dog who was being told to stay with a piece of food dangled in my face?
何やってんだろうな。
What am I doing? Even so, I somehow couldn't quell the uneasy feeling sitting in the pit of my stomach. Oh boy. It was like that with the hospital phone, and the same with the one at the tobacco shop. Both cords were definitely not severed from being frayed by long years of use. The clean cuts indicated that someone had taken something sharp and deliberately cut them. But who? And for what reason? The more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt, so I tried to push the thought aside. Man, his own brain is trying to tell him that it's trouble. He's like, still going. How much had I run so far? The scenery around me was no longer that of a shopping district, with residential buildings scattered about the lonely road. The surroundings had already grown dark. I was blatantly out too far for a quick phone call, and it was quite obvious I was far removed from the hospital. I'll say this now. I was thinking about this also over the last couple days, and this is gonna only make sense to like some people, so I'm gonna try to explain it as best as I can, and hopefully not take too long to explain it. But I was thinking about this. This is clearly like early in the timeline of the story here. You know, this is like before, Kechi and his family comes to Hinamizawa. There is a series that I constantly bring up for many reasons, because I think it's funny, and also because I'm a fan of it. Kingdom Hearts. You play through Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 and Chain of Memories and all that, and you're like, oh, this is all great. And in Chain of Memories, you go through like Castle Oblivion, right? And then you play years later, a prequel game comes out on the PSP called Birth by Sleep, and it's a prequel game, and then things are revealed about spoilers, I guess, for some things at Kingdom Hearts. I don't think anyone cares at this point, but in Birth by Sleep, one of the late game reveals is, oh, Castle Oblivion used to be known as a different place, and yada yada yada. So this old place then transformed into Castle Oblivion at some point. That's the whole deal. Okay, that's the reference. That's the context you need to know. Now, I was thinking, what if, since this is kind of like what you would think of like a prequel chapter, I was thinking, okay, if it's before Kechi gets here, what if, like, I don't know how they would actually link it, but I was wondering, like, what if there's some link? If there's going to be, like, other than the fact that it's just obviously one timeline thing happening, and it's like, oh, whatever, we see some of the same characters, like Oishi and Irie or whatever. I was like, what if there's some, like, seed thing that gets planted here, where, like, something ends up happening to our character here, and then like something he does here then links back to something that Kechi ran into at some point in like chapters 1, 2, and 3, and you're like, oh, it was always that. Ah, I was thinking along those lines. Again, I'm trying to link it back to Kingdom Hearts because that was the best example I could give. But like, I was thinking over the last few days, I was like, man, what if like, I don't know what it would be, or what would make sense, but it would have to be something that then, I don't know, maybe towards the end of whatever this chapter is, like, oh no, right before he gets murdered by the village, Akasaka here put something somewhere, and then when it would be like, it wouldn't make any sense, but something along the lines of, the thing that would make sense to me is like something along the lines of like, somehow we learn Akasaka was the guy in the car that one time when the car almost ran over like Kechi or something, but we didn't know at the time that it was Akasaka. Now, of course, that doesn't make any sense, so don't jump down my throat. I'm saying the timelines wouldn't make sense there, but I'm saying something weird along those lines where it's like, oh shit, it was Akasaka driving madly out of a vehicle and almost running over a kid because he was doing whatever. Something crazy along those lines. I started this stream late and I was like, I can't get off on weird tangents because I don't have the time to do it, and yet here we are. Well, I'm a disaster of a streamer. Alright, here we go. Back on the track. I was blatantly out too far for a quick phone call, and it was quite obvious I was far removed from the hospital. We didn't ever get the car almost running over Kechi. That was a moment like that really stood out, as far as like the story seemed like it really went to detail it. But I want to make sure we weren't actually told who was in that car. We never found out, right? Because it seemed like it was pointed out way too much that it felt like at some point later we'd find out. But did I just miss something? Was it Akasaka somehow in the car? Does that even make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. I recall the clock I saw at the tobacco shop. It might almost be time. It's the ghost of Akasaka driving the car. That makes sense. So he gets murdered here sometime, and then his ghost haunts a car. In fact, ghost powers possesses the car. You know, like some instances, some tellings of ghosts are able to like possess actual items, like a phantasm, a ghoul. So he possesses a car and just drives around Hinamizawa recklessly to get out his anger that he missed the birth of his child, and that's then he almost ends up running over Akechi. Akechi? Why did I say that? We spent so much time away from our other main protagonist, Kechi, that I'm just making up his name now. Saying it's different things. Maybe by the end of chapter 4, I'll start calling him Johnny or something. I had run for quite a bit, so my breathing had grown quite ragged. If I just wanted to hear Yuki's voice, I should have just thrown away my reservations and borrowed the phone in the office. I regretted it a little. Yeah, it was a big mistake. Well then, was it about time to give up? Just when I thought that. Although, if my theory about the intentional trap leading is happening, maybe he would step into the office and then they would just get him there. You know what I mean? So maybe best. Just when I thought that, I saw the light in front of me. I had finally found it. It was a phone booth. It seemed like the light on the phone booth had recently been changed, as it shone with a vivid white light. Although in the gloom of Hinamizawa, it was quite nothing more. It was nothing more than a gathering spot for moths. But, in any case, I had finally found it. As my hand touched the door of the phone booth, I realized that I was breathing and sweating heavily. I didn't know what time it was right now, but even if it was just for a moment, I might be able to get in touch with Yuki. Since I'd spent all this effort getting here, turning back without even giving it a try was out of the question. Before I picked up the receiver, another wave of uneasiness washed over me. I was worried that this phone cord might be severed as well. How was the cord in this phone booth? Squatting down, I followed the bundle of cables as I ran along the corner into the ceiling. At a glance, nothing was out of the ordinary. I ran my fingers as far as I could along the line to check it out. The only thing they found was a thick layer of dust. No, nothing out of the ordinary. wondered if it was popular in Hinamazawa to cut the cords of payphones as some sort of tasteless prank. It might be prudent to tell Toiishi-san about this later. Sure. Even if it was nothing more than a prank, it was still vandalism of public property. Choked. I was trying to make a snooty voice and ended up choking. That's what I get. In any case, this one was fine this time. Pulling out a coin from my pocket with one hand, I picked up the receiver with the other. But this time, before the receiver even reached my ear, I felt something was off. The receiver was light. It was more than a slightly unpleasant feeling. It felt almost sickening. To verify the source of my displeasure, I peered at the receiver in my hand with a measure of reluctance.
なんだよこれ
What the hell is this? The cold cord that connected the receiver to the rest of the phone had been ripped apart. The tip of the cable swaying in the air. Ugh. It was all I could do to restrain myself as a raw and unpleasant feeling worked its way up the small of my back. It was a type of dread. At that moment, I heard the crunch of somebody stepping on gravel. The light was reflecting off the glass walls of the booth, leaving me unable to see outside into the darkness. Uh-oh, this is terrifying. I steeled myself and stepped out of the phone booth. The inside of the booth was lit with that strong light, which might have made it warmer in there. Just stepping outside, I could feel a chill wash over me. And there was a silhouette of a person. A small silhouette.
君は
The long hair of that silhouette was blown about by the cool breeze. Uh-oh.
怪我人が病院を抜け出してはいけないのですよ。
Uh-oh. 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 Sound the alarms. Injured people shouldn't be sneaking out of the hospital. Somewhere in my head, I knew who this girl was. I didn't have any basis for it, but I knew that she was that girl.
ねえ、赤坂。
Right, Akasaka? She, Rika Furude, said that almost like it was a warning.
君が電話のコードを
Alright, he already has uneasy feelings about her. I would not be the first thing I do to her, or say to her, would accuse her of doing something. I don't know. Even if she's a tiny little baby, I'd be like, hi! Nipa! Sumimasen! I gotta go! Sorry, my Japanese pronunciation is really bad there. Did you do this to the phone cord? Her expression remained unchanged, and my question was left unanswered. In other words, no response. Regardless, I felt that she had affirmed my suspicions.
どうしてこんなことをするんだ
Why would you do something like this?
どうして
Why? The last word had a tinge of anger behind it. I frantically tried to smooth things out, but she didn't seem very afraid.
もう
Uh-oh.
どうにもならないことです。
There's nothing that can be done.
No.
Huh? I interpreted her words as meaning that I wasn't going to be in time for calling hours at the hospital. But, thinking about it, that would have been a strange thing to say. Why would she know something like that? I could take what she had said to have any other meaning. She just stood there like a mannequin, not even moving an inch. Almost to the point that if the wind wasn't occasionally rustling through her long hair, there would be the illusion that time had stopped.
赤坂が私を気味悪く思っているのがよくわかる。
I know very well that you think I'm creepy, Akasaka.
ああいやそんなことないよ
Huh? No, that's not true. My denial came out almost like a bad piece composed for poetry slam. But her words were right on the mark. I'd always felt something ominous and uncanny about her. Ever since her strange threats at the shrine. She had noticed that my expression was contrary to my words, seemingly laughing at the gap between them.
赤坂の怖がり。
Akasaka, you coward.
怖がってなんかいないよ
I'm not a coward. I'm definitely not a coward. Being laughed at by the small child didn't sit well with me, so I said that.
もう電話を探しても手遅れの時間です。
Even if you find another phone, it's too late.
そうだな
That's right. Shouldn't even have to say it. I was absolutely too late. I might have already missed calling hours even by the time I reached this phone booth. I was too late. I had no option but to give up for today. Once I decided that, my unhealthy obsession with phones suddenly faded. Even I thought that it was strange that I was that obsessed. That strange obsession was now gone. I began to laugh at how hopeless I was. I mean, just look at what I was wearing. It wasn't normal. A hospital gown and sandals. My head wrapped in bandages, and my body completely soaked in sweat. It was a wonder that the old lady at the tobacco shop wasn't surprised to see me. With wanting to hear Yuki's voice as my motive, I had triapsed around the town the entire evening. I didn't know whether to call it, I didn't know whether to call it the follies of youth or simply plain embarrassing. In any case, it was all I could do but to laugh at myself.
もうこれで
Now,
今夜赤坂がすることは何もないです。
there's nothing left for Akasaka to do tonight.
そうだな。もう何もないよ。
You're right. There's nothing.
おとなしく病院へ引き上げるさ。
I'll just quietly return to the hospital.
それがいいのですよ。
That's fine.
病院への道はわかりますですか？
Do you know the way?
わかるつもりだよ。
I hope I do. Uh-oh. She waved her little hand as I began to head back the way I came. She began to follow alongside me. Looking at her face, I could see that she wore a mischievous smile, as if she was extremely interested in whether or not I would get lost.
リカちゃんの家もこっちの方向なのかい？
Is Rika-chan's house also this way?
なのですよ。
It is.
こんな時間に一人で表を歩いてると、ご両親に怒られたりしないかい？
Won't your parents be mad that you're walking around alone at this hour?
別に怒られませんです。
Not really.
今日はご両親は忙しい日なので、僕のことなど忘れていますですよ。
My parents are busy today, so they probably forgot about me.
それでも帰った方がいい。
Even then, it's best if you head on home.
きっと怒るよ。
They'll definitely be angry.
それでも赤坂とおしゃべりする方が面白いのでいいのです。
Even if they are, it's much more interesting to talk with Akasaka, so I'll be fine. She said that with a face free from worry as she looked up at me once more and smiled. When she showed me that smile, the eerie feelings surrounding her faded. But even then, she was still as mysterious to me as ever. We arrived at the corner I had turned at earlier, but it was much darker than before, and with the point of view changed on the return trip, I wasn't very confident that this actually was the corner I turned at. There's no mistake. It had to be this corner. As I began to move my feet again, the girl grabbed into my clothes.
赤坂は病院へ戻るのではないのですか？
Isn't Akasaka going back to the hospital?
もちろん戻るつもりだよ。
Of course. At least I intend to.
道間違えた？
Am I going the wrong way? A short moment of silence. Eventually, still holding on to my clothes, she began to walk. It was the beginning of the walk to the hospital this mysterious girl would take me on. Oh boy. Oh no. Don't do me dirty, Rika. I need to see my
電話の
child.
コードを切って回ってたの。リカちゃんだろ？
The person who was running around cutting all the phone cords was you, wasn't it, Rika-chan?
ダメだよ。もうしちゃ。
You shouldn't do that anymore.
僕には何のことかよくわかりませんのですよ。
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
本当にかい？
Really? She tried to play dumb, but it was written all over her face.
ニパー。
Nipa! It was obvious she was trying to laugh it off, but that adorable smile of hers just made me want to forgive her. Ah, I'm going to be a horrible father, aren't I? That momentary lapse in tension was erased by her next words.
孫、無事に見つかってよかったです。
Uh-oh. It's good that they found the grandson safe and sound. I really was hoping, like, fucking, like, exorcist moment, like, she, like, fucking, her head spins, like, 360 degrees. Like, when he goes, oh, her next words really, erase that, ease that I felt. And her head just spins, and she starts, like, cursing at him or something. Unable to respond right away, I sunk into silence. I had already learned this from Sato-san's info, didn't I? This girl? No. This entire village knew everything since the moment I set foot in it. I considered playing dumb, but in the end I chose not to. With everything being known already, there was no point in me feigning ignorance.
なんとかね。
Somehow.
それは良かったです。
That's great.
これで東京に帰れますですよ。
Now you can go back to Tokyo.
ありがとう。
Thank you.
赤坂の怪我はひどいのですか？
No, the most terrifying thing she could do probably at this moment would be like she starts saying like what hospital his wife is staying at. Say the name, say Yuki. Like, because all those details wouldn't have been said by him. I think. I don't think he said those to her at some point during the fun montage, not safari, nature, walk. What would you call it? Nature, sightseeing. Whatever. Rika says, "Are your injuries bad, Akasuka?"
さあ、ひどいのかどうか、医者の診察を聞いてないからわからないな。
Don't know. I haven't heard anything from the doctor yet, so I don't know if they are or not. Huh? Come to think of it, I vaguely remembered being told to lie down and take it easy for at least 24 hours. Did that mean bed rest?
怪我人は病院を抜け出してはいけないのですよ。
The wounded shouldn't be sneaking out of the hospital.
電話のコードだって切っちゃいけないんだぞ。
People shouldn't be cutting phone cords. Damn. Hit her with that Uno reverse card.
み
Me.
僕には何のことやらわからないのです。
I have no idea what you're talking about.
じゃあこっちだって何のことかわからないや。
Then I don't know what you're talking about either. As we played dumb with each other, we both laughed at the same time. If somebody saw us laughing at each other like this, it would probably bring a smile to their lips.
赤坂が生きてこの村を出られる確率は決して高くありませんでした。
The chances of Akasuka leaving this village alive weren't very high.
僕は赤坂に死んでほしくはないので、生きて村を出ることができて嬉しいです。
I don't want Akasuka to die, so I'm glad you're leaving the village alive.
リカちゃん、
Rika-chan,
最初っから私の正体は知ってたんだろ？
you knew who I was right from the beginning, didn't you? She said nothing, but gave a firm nod.
なら分かっていると思うけど、私たちはこの村のどちらかというと敵の部類に入ると思う。
Well then, I think you know this, but we're probably somewhat of an enemy to the people in this village, I would think.
なのに君はいろいろと忠告してくれたね。
But you still gave me lots of warnings. That's right. She said it at the time. She wouldn't warn somebody that she was okay with dying. She definitely said something like that.
なら私は君に感謝するべきなのかもしれないね。
Then I should probably be thanking you.
感謝した方がいいのですよ。
You probably should.
僕は命の恩人なのです。
I'm your savior. Saying that, she puffed up her chest proudly. She said it jokingly, but the meaning behind those words was quite heavy. That was because whether I lived or died was a decision that might have been made in a place unbeknownst to me. She said those words with such an adorable smile that it took a few moments of silence for their weight to settle in. I've been to this place before. The Guardian's office was there. There was a stone steps leading up to the Fruity Shrine. When I passed by before, I was so focused on finding a phone booth I hadn't realized where I was.
確かこの神社がリカちゃんの家だったよね。
If I recall correctly, this shrine is Rika-chan's house, right?
まあ、そんなものです。
Yeah, something like that. Looking up at the shrine grounds, it was brightly lit and energetic voices could be heard. What was going on?
今日はお祭りの日なのですよ。
There's a festival today.
お祭り？
A festival?
ひなみ沢村の唯一で一番の
Oh
お祭
shit, the
り。
festival's been going on. Oh my god. The best and only festival in Hinamizawa.
綿流しのお祭りです。
The Watanagashi Festival. Also, that probably means something dire is about to happen too. Oh boy.
綿流し？
Oh, he's not gonna say anything else? Okay, Watanagashi? Cotton drifting?
祭りなんて名ばかりのつまらないものですよ。
Just knowing the name is boring.
見ますですか？
Do you want to take a look? She asked bluntly. But, seeing that I looked interested, she climbed up a couple steps and motioned for me to come. I was only going to go back and sleep anyways. If I had nothing else to do, it might not be a bad idea to go with her on a little detour. In the hostile territory that was this village, I didn't know what would happen if I ventured down a side road with Oishi. Even though I thought of the village like that when I was with this girl, I forgot all about it. In any case, even without anything to back it up, I felt that as long as I was with her, none of the ill will from the village would befall me. That's why, even though I knew my cover was blown, I strangely had no qualms about setting foot into the heart of the Onagafuchi Guardian's territory. Climbing up to the grounds of the shrine, I could see there was about 3 pavilions set up with meeting tables and folding chairs. The old folks from the village, no, the executives of the Guardians, were already quite drunkenly sharing another round of drinks. I could only see it as people from the village counseled drinking while enjoying the evening air. At the very least, it was certainly quite different than any festival I'd ever seen.
ね、
See?
つまんないお祭りでしょ。
It's quite a boring festival, isn't it?
これは確かにお祭りには見えないね。
It certainly doesn't look like a festival.
大昔からずっと続いてきたお祭りですが、見ての通り、すっかり寂れてしまったのですよ。
It's a festival that's happened since long ago, but as you can see, it's not like it used to be. As if to chide the old folk, she said that while looking at them with an exasperated expression. You really couldn't call this a festival anymore. It was just a bunch of neighbors getting together to drink under the guise of a festival. Oh, so does it get, like, more evolved as the years go on then? Because I don't think they would be describing it like this if it was like the festival from what we're most familiar with during the previous chapters then.
これじゃ祀られる神様も気の毒だな。
I feel sorry for the deity being celebrated here.
こんなみっともないお祭りも、5、6年もすると村中が総出でやってきて。
Give this sorry excuse for a festival 5 or 6 more years, then everybody in the village will start coming.
ちゃんと儀式も真面目にやる立派なお祭りになるのですよ。
The ceremony will also be done properly, and it'll be a respectable festival again. What she said was not so much wishful thinking as it was telling of a future that had already been determined. She wasn't even predicting it. It was almost like she was simply reporting the results. That's how it sounded. Even though it was baseless speculation, the way she said it wouldn't let me interject. It was the same way she talked when she changed. While I struggled to find the words to reply to her, she wandered all over the other side of the grounds, not minding me at all. Not in a state where I could afford to be left behind, I hurriedly followed after her. Passing through a corpse of pine trees. A corpse? Passing through a copse? Excuse me, of pine trees, a strong and cool breeze ruffled my hair. There, from that one evening, was a splendid observation platform the girl had shown me. As it had grown completely dark, the modest lights littered across the nightscape were providing a different type of scenery.
こうして眺めると、この村ものどかそうに見えますのです。
Looking at it like this village seems tranquil. She said that with an indifferent look on her face.
君は先日、
Just the other day,
この村は絶対にダムに沈むことはないと、
you said
そう
that,
断言したね。
you said that this village definitely wouldn't be submerged by the dam, didn't you? She didn't reply, seemingly relishing in the feeling of the wind blowing through her hair.
あれはあの時点でもう大臣が要求に応じていたという意味だったんだね。
Didn't that mean, at that point in time, the minister had already complied with the demands? She spun around, her gaze meeting mine. But she said nothing. She spoke nothing that would neither confirm nor deny what I had just said.
多分今回の事件は闇から闇へ葬られる。
This case will probably remain shrouded in darkness.
本庁上層部は多分大臣のスキャンダルが公になってトラブルになることを望まないと思う。
Headquarters probably doesn't want trouble from a scandal with the minister breaking out.
さもないと孫を殺すぞと脅したに違いないのです。
There's no mistake that they threatened to kill the grandchild.
で、大臣との交渉が成功し、孫は解放された。
Then negotiations with the minister were successful. The grandson was released.
孫を助けたのは赤坂ですよ。
Don't you say the grandson was you?
どうだろう。
I wonder about that.
発端となったあの財布の発見。
The discovery of that wallet that started this chain of events.
あれ自体がすでにできすぎだったように思う。
That alone was almost too convenient, I think. Ever since the moment that wallet was discovered, I felt something was odd. Oishi said it as well. That the Sonozaki family had given the order to release the hostage. Meaning that our little manhunt was a farce to begin with. Come to think of it, I was punched, kicked, and had a gun pointed at me. I felt like they put up quite a fight, but that might have been all part of a good performance. Once the negotiations were successful, they couldn't just say, "Here you go," and return the minister's grandson right to his doorstep. They knew the public safety had realized that this was a kidnapping case and were moving in on it. That's why, due to the actions of public safety, grandson was able to get rescued safely. So the minister didn't give in to any unreasonable demands. That type of performance was necessary.
僕には難しいことはよくわかりません。
I don't know about these difficult things.
同感だな。
Likewise.
私にだって難しいことはよくわからない。
Even for me, can't make much sense of it.
だが、一つ確実なことがある。
But there's one thing I can be certain of.
君が言った通りってことさ。
It's just as you said.
この村はダム湖になんか沈まない。
This village won't be submerged.
ダム計画なんてそのうちなくなってしまうってことさ。
The dam project will soon be over. That wasn't something an officer of the law should be saying, but I naturally let those words slip from my mouth. This village may have stirred up all sorts of trouble, but that was because they were protecting their homes. If someone had just decided by themselves that I had to leave the house I was used to living in, I'd resent them as well. On top of that, it wasn't a place like mine where I just happened to be renting it, but a place that the families had lived for generations. It might be ignorant to call their desperate resistance an overreaction. I may not really be qualified to criticize politics or bureaucracy, but deliberately building a dam on land that was loved by its residents wasn't something I could get behind.
でも、よかったじゃないか。
Still, aren't you glad?
どうしてですか？
It's a Rika picture in the moon. Rika is loony for the lunar. Why would that be?
少なくともこれで、この村に平和が戻るよ。
At the very least, with this, peace will return to the village. This village. Even though the minister promised to use his considerable influence to cancel the project, it would probably take more than a few months before it would be completely scrapped. At the very least, it would probably take 1 or 2 years. For the villagers to officially hear that their village wasn't going to be submerged at the bottom of a dam was still a ways away. But it was no mistake that the promise of peace returning to the village was there. It turned out, from beginning to end, that it had already all been decided. Just as the girl had said, it was decided. There wasn't really a need for me to come here in the first place. Just a big ol' waste of time. he's kind of, it sounds like he's growing like resentful of the whole thing. He's now realizing like, the manhunt thing was a farce. I didn't have to come here. I didn't have to overexert myself. I didn't have to spend time away from my very pregnant wife. Man. I didn't have to hang out with Oishi and his terrible friends. I didn't have to dress up in a weird disguise when I got into the car. I didn't have to meet the adorable Rika-chan that honestly scares me sometimes. There was absolutely no need for me to have come here and aggravate an unpleasant situation. If I'd never come here, then the grandson's release might have been done in a more amicable manner.
平和が
Peace?
この村に
In this village? When I nodded, she laughed as if to admonish me. But her face remained indifferent, expressionless. Oh. And then her eyes narrowed slightly as she snickered.
これから毎年血生臭いことが起きるのに
Even though every year from now on, something bloody will occur? He.
リカちゃん
Rika-chan.
何の話だい
I totally. Rika-chan, what are you talking about? As the wind blew her hair about, the girl, as if taking pleasure in that I was the only one who didn't know, continued to snicker as she looked at my face for a while.
私ね
You see?
あと何年かすると殺されるの
In a few years, I'll be killed. Huh? Backlit by the moon, it was hard to tell if her expression that had been cast in shadow was smiling, amused, or resigned.
リカちゃんが
You will?
どうして
Why?
とても不愉快なことだけど
It's a very unpleasant thing, though.
それも多分決まってることなの
It's also probably been decided already.
決まっているって誰がそんなことを決めるんだい
Decided already? Who would decide that sort of thing?
それを私も知りたいの
I'd like to know that as well. Turned back to face me, she showed me a resolute expression for the first time. And after staring into my eyes for a moment, she turned back to gaze at the scenery before she spoke her next words.
ここは人の命を何とも思わない連中でいっぱいです
There's a lot of people who have no regard for human life.
これを伝えても何も変わらないかもしれないけど
Even if I tell you this, it might not change anything though.
でも死という月を映す水面をかき消すためなら小石を投じることもあるかもしれない
But if you want to erase the specter of death, sometimes, like with the reflection of the moon on the water, all you have to do is throw a small stone. I had no idea what she was trying to say. It's just, I had to listen to every word with my body and soul, or at least that's what I thought.
来年の今
This day next year,
日そう昭和54年の6月の今日
yes, June 1979, on this day,
ダム現場の監督が殺されます
the foreman of the dam construction project will be killed. What? For a moment, I couldn't comprehend what she was talking about. By the foreman, did she mean that gruff old man I played mahjong with? Mahjong?
殺されるってどうして
But be killed? What makes you think? She didn't answer, but she had the same expression on her face that she did when she declared that the dam project would go away. That was in the face of somebody making a forecast or a prediction. It was something that was already decided. No. It was as if she was already reporting the results. That sort of expression.
恐ろしい殺され方をした後
After being
体中をバラバラに引き裂かれて捨てられてしまいます
After being killed in a gruesome manner, the body will be torn apart and disposed of.
バラバラ殺人
Murdered and dismembered.
その翌年の昭和55年の6月の今
The next year, in June of 1980 on this day,
日聡子の両親が突き落とされて死にます
Satoko's parents will be pushed to their deaths. Satoko? It was the first time I heard that name, but I didn't have the courage to interrupt the girl's story.
あるいは事故と言うべきかもしれない
It might be an accident,
不幸な事故
an unfortunate accident. The girl smiled faintly, but she wasn't exactly encouraging me to smile along with the lifeless look in her eyes.
そしてさらにその翌年の昭和56年の6月の今日
And then, the year after that, this day in June of 1981,
私の両親が殺されます
my parents will be killed.
そしてさらに翌年の昭和57年の6月の今日
And then the year after that, this day in June of 1982,
聡子の意地悪おばが頭を割られて死にます
Satoko's abusive aunt will have her head split open and die.
そしてさらに翌年の昭和58年の6月の今日
And then the year after that, this day in June of 1983,
あるいは
その数日後か。
or possibly a few days afterwards.
私が殺されます。
I will be killed.
すべての死が予定調和なら、
If all the deaths are preordained,
最後の死もまた予定のうちなのでしょうか。
then the last one would also be all according to plan.
でもならばこれは一体誰の予定なの？
But then whose plan would it be? This village is full of murderers and people who have no regard for human life. It would be fine to believe that all the deaths up to 1982 would be the work of somebody in the village. It would be fine to believe that all the deaths that would occur were at the discretion of those who control the village. But that didn't explain what would happen in 1983. There's no way that the last death would fit in with anybody's plan. They had no regard for human life. They would use every means at their disposal to meet their goals. But their goals were at odds with the last death. That's why the last death was unrelated to them. But that last death would definitely, most likely, probably, without question, happen. Probably, definitely, I dare say. The last death would be a merciful one. A handkerchief or something being placed over their mouth, making them lose consciousness, never to wake up again. Exactly whose plan was that?
私は幸せに生きたい。
I want to live happily.
望みはそれだけ。
That's my only wish.
大好きな友人たちに囲まれて楽しく日々を過ごしたい。
Surrounded by my precious friends, spending our days enjoyably.
それだけなの。
Only that.
それ以上の何も望んでいないの。
I don't wish for anything more than that.
リカちゃん。
Rika-chan,
死にたくない。
I don't want to die. The girl, stoic as ever, let those words slip in the end. Eventually we were discovered by some drunks. The girl, as well as I, were dragged back to the festivities. Everybody was completely drunk, so even when they saw my head completely wrapped in bandages, they wouldn't let me leave. Well, certainly, if I was in good condition to slip out of the hospital, it must not be that serious. The girl was mingling with everybody, being pampered like a kitten. Her expression was adorable, nothing like the one from just before, predicting her own death and whispering that she didn't want to die. Having said that, having a silly and lively conversation like this, it was hard to believe that these people were the core of an extremist resistance group. Even if it was a shell of its former self, it was a festival where people in the village gathered, so the 20-some-odd folk here should have included some of the village executives and other important members. Among those, there was no doubt that there were members that were at the Sonozaki family council in attendance. Meaning, even if we never met face-to-face before, there were people here who knew my identity. In a small village like this, they knew the faces of all the villagers that lived here. That's why, without even saying anything, it soon became obvious that I was an outsider. But they actually seemed interested by that, asking me all sorts of questions about Tokyo, drinking while musing on the faint relationship the city had with the villagers and emphasizing with the rather meager environment. The confidential talks with the minister were finished, his grandson was in police custody, everything was over. I might not have to be put in another perilous situation. To me, they were only my adversaries because of my job. Outside of that, there was no reason I couldn't be friendly with them. The next time I visited this village, would it return to being a tranquil and beautiful place? If that happened, I might be able to take a relaxed walk around the village with her again. My cup was once again filled to the brim with beer. By the time I was able to get away, it was the middle of the night. The girl had at some point disappeared. It seemed that her parents had told her to go home and sleep when she let out a large yawn. The old folks, who had absolutely no remorse for making an injured person hang out with them, told me as much as they laughed. I was just there drinking, so I had thought to help a bit with cleanup. However, my help was refused on the grounds that I was a guest. On top of that, they had a car prepared to take me back to the hospital. Losing the battle against my sleepiness inside the car, I was sound asleep until we reached the parking lot of the hospital. The front door of the hospital was naturally locked at this hour. I wandered around bewilderedly, searching for a back entrance until somebody on night duty found out and let me inside.
こんな時間までどちらへ
Where were you this late at night?
入江先生も心配してましたよ
Dr. Irie was worried, you know?
ご迷惑をおかけしました。
Sorry for the trouble.
神社でお祭りの人たちに引き止められまして。
I was held up by the people having a festival at the shrine.
ああそういえば今日は神社で町会の人たちが集まって飲むとか言ってたな
Oh, they did say something about everybody in the town council getting together for a drink.
それはご愁傷様でした
My condolences.
傷は大丈夫ですか
Are your wounds alright?
ちょっとズキズキしますね。
They're throbbing a bit.
多分アルコールのせいだと思います。
It's probably because of the alcohol, I think.
そうだ
Oh, that's right.
お連れの刑事さんが連絡が欲しいと言ってましたよ
The detective that was with you wanted to get in touch.
いけない。
Oops.
大石さんを待たせてたんだった。
I kept Oishi-san waiting. I glanced at the clock. No matter how you looked at it, it was way too late to call him now. I'll apologize to him tomorrow over the phone. I returned back to my hospital room and slipped into the bed that was still unmade from the time I went outside. Oh, that's no good. I have to turn off the lights. But my awareness had cut the cord, powering my body, lulling me into a deep sleep. This doesn't seem great for him. Oh, we're just going. That's it? What is this? Prophecy at the beginning. Alright, I guess we got these tips then to read. A bunch of Mother's Diaries entries. Good morning. Diary entry reading time. There was something I didn't like about my child. I first realized it when I started writing these things down. They never warn you about any books about raising children, but they aren't just a plaything. If they aren't able to feel loved even when they're not doing exactly as their parents want them to, then those parents are failures. This wasn't something like that, though. How can I say it? It's probably hard to express with mere words. I just want my child to be average. As long as they weren't falling behind, there wasn't any need for them to excel at something. As long as they acted appropriately for their age, I would have been fine with it. But my child had been different ever since kindergarten. While the children in her class were running around in excitement about the field trip the next day, she only wore a bored look on her face, aloof and distant. When the other kids broke the equipment for the athletics festival and were apologizing fervently, she only wore a bored look on her face, aloof and distant. When the teacher was reading a fun picture book, only she wasn't smiling. Even if they all got to eat a delicious bento, only she wasn't happy. If it was only this, it would still be in the realm of understanding. However, what I don't understand about my child is that if the aforementioned situations happened again, they'd now act in a manner befitting their age. I don't understand the principle behind that, as a parent. Why were they indifferent about that field trip, but happy about this one? Why were they indifferent about that picture book, but happy about this one? Why were they indifferent about that bento, but happy about this one? The former and the latter in each situation seem exactly the same to me. Then was even times when I thought the former one was better? There was even times when I thought the former one was better. I don't understand that child's feelings. During parent-teacher meetings, the teacher always says the same thing, and I would always respond that I don't understand my own child, and we would mope together. My husband, always the optimist, once said that a young child's feelings are different from an adult's, so if there were some things we didn't understand, we shouldn't worry about it. I lament his lack of urgency. One day, when I was in a good mood, I took the effort to prepare a menu that my child would enjoy, but she only smiled with a vague expression of disinterest. That attitude frankly made me angry, so I hit her on the head. Flashbacks to fucking Maria and Rosa. That attitude frankly made me angry, so I hit her on the head. On a day when the weather was nice. The laundry I had just hung up. God, there was a small part of me that was like, am I not going to remember Rosa's name? Of course, I would always remember Maria's name, but I was like Maria's mom's name. Searching the databanks in my head. The laundry I had just hung up to dry was blown by a large gust of wind, causing the entire line to fall down. But she, watching me trying to pick up the laundry in a panic, stood there laughing. That attitude frankly made me angry, so I hit her on the head. I think the same sort of thing happened countless times. Before I knew it, my child was only able to look at me with an indifferent expression on her face. I regret the fact that I've been a bad mother. Thinking I should regain her trust, I thought to get it back little by little with some light interactions. Seeing her do some sort of craft work on the veranda, I called out to her.
ここ数日、気持ちのいい晴れの日が続いて、気分がいいわね。
These past few days have been nice and sunny. The air feels nice, doesn't it? That child, with that indifferent look on her face I hated so much, looked up at me for a moment, then without a word returned to immersing herself in her craft work. Up until now, I would have hit her on the head just for that. I held myself back.
何を作ってるの？お人形さん？
What are you making? Is it a doll?
てるてる坊主。
A weather charm. A child was using inserts from the newspaper to deftly make some weather charms. The forecast hadn't called for rain, but that child, in her own way, was praying that these sunny days would continue. Being able to understand my own child for the first time in a while, I couldn't hide my own happiness. Bringing out a ball of yarn, I began to hang my child's cute weather charms from the eaves of the house.
ダメよ、リカ。
It's no good, Rika.
頭が重すぎるから。ほら。
The heads are too heavy, see?
逆さてるてる坊主になっちゃったわ。
They become reverse weather charms now.
これじゃ、晴れじゃなくて、雨になっちゃうわよ。
If they're like this, they'll call the rain instead of the sun. When I started to take them down, my child tugged at the hem of my shirt as if to stop me.
逆さになるように作ったのだから、それでいいの。
That's because I made them to be upside down. They're fine.
でもリカ、てるてる坊主が逆さじゃ、晴れのおまじないにならないわよ。
But, Rika, if they're upside down, there won't be a charm that calls for a sunny day, you know?
雨が降るようにおまじないをしているから、それでいいの。
I was making a charm for it to rain, so they're fine. I desperately suppressed the emotions welling up inside of me. I was trying desperately to understand my child.
そっか。
Oh,
お庭の朝顔が晴れ続きで元気がなくなっちゃったから、雨が欲しいのね。
oh, I see. The morning glories in the garden were starting to get a little wilted from all the sun, so you wanted some rain, right? That child turned to me with the expression that I hated the most.
晴れにね。飽きたの。
I got bored of the clear weather. I don't understand. I don't understand. I just can't understand that child. Rika says, "To hell with you understanding me, woman." Diary entry number 2. During the family council, she buried herself under Oryu-san's futon again. Oryu-san dotes on her unwaveringly. No matter whatever insolence my child commits, she doesn't mind. It's almost as though my child is a kitten or something. Oryu dotes on her exactly like you would with a kitten. As her mother, I chided her for doing that. Until Oryu-san had said 3 times that it was fine, I chided her as a formality. Of course, she never lends an ear to any of my chidings. Knowing that Oryu-san's standing was far above mine, she behaves like that. I don't like the cunning that's unbefitting of her age either. In any case, not only Oryu-san, but the rest of the old folk in the village spoil her too much. One day, I was surprised. By chance, on the way back from some shopping, I saw her by herself just outside a candy shop. My own child suddenly grabbed a snack, opened the package right there, and then started eating it. She didn't make any attempt to pay for it, and she didn't even think of looking around. Didn't even feel like she was shoplifting, more like she was brazenly eating snacks that was offered to her. When I began to admonish my child, the elderly shop owner appeared and covered for her. The owner gave the ridiculous excuse that he had said it was okay for that child to eat any of the snacks out by the entrance, so it was fine. When I tried to pay for the snacks that my child had eaten, the owner refused my money. During that exchange, more old folks had suddenly gathered around, and it began to feel like I was the one in the wrong. The elderly people all put their hands together reverently in front of my child and repeatedly voiced their respects. I was born into the Furude family, so it wasn't like I didn't know why she was being treated specially. When I was still young, it was something I heard often from my grandmother. If by chance the child that I gave birth to was a girl, that child would be the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. All the older folk believe she's the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama and spoil her rotten. And not only did they spoil her, but they even told her she was the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. That she had a divine power and threw all sorts of strange folktales her way. So she may have begun to believe herself that she was a special existence. I went around and told everybody that it wasn't good for her upbringing, so to stop telling her all these strange things, but there was no uprooting the elderly people's deep-seated superstitions. I told my child not to listen to them, but it ended up being that she stopped listening to me. Between all the old folks in the village who would dote on her and myself who only scolded her, there was no wonder who she would listen to. There was no mistaking that the reason she had become strange was because of the elderly villagers. There was no doubt that they had shoved her full of strange folk tales and superstitions since she was young. If it wasn't for that, there was no doubt that my child would have been cute and normal. Uh-oh, she's resenting this place. Her own child. Oh, God. Oh, God! Entry number 3. One sunny parent-teacher day. There was a cooking class, and my child was making curry rice with a practiced hand. While the other children her age were awkwardly using their kitchen knives, that child was wielding hers deftly. The teacher approached me with a smile on their face, saying it must be a result of learning it at home. I managed to play it off with a vague smile and a nod in response. That was because I had never once taught my child how to make curry rice. Even then, she was peeling vegetables with a practiced hand, adding them into the pot in the order of which took longer to cook. For a normal parent, they might unintentionally clap their hands together, happy at their child's actions. But in my case, it was different. There was no mistaking that somebody had taught her how to make that curry rice when I wasn't taking care of her. Thinking that, I quietly fell into an unpleasant mood. When I asked, it seemed she could also sew and do laundry. I had never taught her how to do those, and again, never saw her do it around the house. Be it cooking or sewing or laundry. Again, that was probably because the elderly villagers taught her all sorts of rubbish when I wasn't looking. And not only that, they probably taught her all sorts of strange superstitions, trying to prop her up as a living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. I said as much to my husband, suggesting that we should keep our child away from the elderly folk. But my husband, who is in the position of being the head priest of the Furude Shrine, had little power against the elderly who supported it. He took the rather uncommitted stance of saying that as long as she was being doted upon, wasn't it fine? I argued against that. That she was our child, she should be a completely normal girl. That what the elderly were expecting, that she was the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama, was simply odd. The elderly villagers believed that child has divine powers. We would discuss the weather for the following day, but there were so many times when I left the house without an umbrella and came back soaking wet. Rather than having clairvoyance, that was just secondhand knowledge from her watching the news all the time. The things that she knew that she shouldn't have known were just a result of the people who were trying to indoctrinate her and the people who were gossiping getting together in the village. However, there certainly were days when everybody thought it was going to be sunny all day, and that child would stubbornly not go out without an umbrella. It would occasionally rain, and in the end we would be saved. There might also have been times when Rika knew of major accidents in foreign countries faster than the news did. I thought that she must have heard it break over the radio or something, knowing things she shouldn't have. Something like that. Was in front of me right now, wasn't it? That child was making curry rice when there shouldn't have been anybody who taught her how to. No, that couldn't possibly be the case. Somebody had taught her, indoctrinated her. When I wasn't taking care of her, somebody had indoctrinated Rika with something.
フルデさんのカレーは大変見事です。先生、花丸をあげちゃいます。
Furude-san's curry is absolutely splendid. I'll give it a gold star.
ニパー
Nippa!
古出さんはお料理を誰に習いましたか？やっぱりお家で？
Where did you learn to cook, Furude-san? At home?
はい、お
Yes.
家なのですよ。
Yes. At home. At least, hey, at least Rika is trying to make her parents look good in front of everyone else. The other parents in attendance were impressed. Lies. All lies. I didn't teach her anything. Who was it? Who was it? Who was the person who had completely indoctrinated my child? She was my normal, average daughter, not the living incarnation of Oishiro-sama. Rough. Rough. A bit, not, I don't want to say necessarily hard to read, but damn, you're just like, clearly Rika's mom was not happy of her, situation. The situation. Let's get saving. That last achievement I just got was the achievement for reading all the tips. So you gotta assume we are getting very close to the end here of Chapter 4, as have been previous chapters. So maybe finale to this Saturday night? Finale to Chapter 4, obviously. That's exciting, maybe. Let's see. That will be the end of the stream here. Possibly no stream tomorrow, I should say. If I do stream tomorrow, it's going to end up being probably pretty short and probably pretty late. So with that in mind, I might just not stream. Might not stream tomorrow. But I will then be back Thursday. Normally don't stream Thursday nights, but again, I should be on Thursday during the day doing stuff. Same with Friday. I'll probably also stream during the day on Friday and not Friday night. And then that would be Saturday night Higurashi. So that's the upcoming rest of the week schedule. It wasn't a planned chapter after all, so it's pretty short. That's what the people are saying. That's what the streets are saying. A short little interstitial chapter. I don't mind it. I like a nice short chapter. Break up the formula a bit. Tell me some little Rika stories. Give me a different pro tag. I'm all for it. Did I already save? Yeah, I did. How did the tag change to Rika Fear Zone? Because I have the ability to change it. I'm the tag master. Here, do it. I'll change it now to oh, not how, but why. Because we flipped into the fear zone. It's honestly fear out of respect. You know what I mean? That's all it is. It should be the fear. Here. Fear meaning respect. There we go. I don't know if that'll immediately pop up. That might have to be a refresh on the screen for that to show it. Just having fun, just goofing around. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks for popping in. As I said, the rest of the week schedule plans, I said earlier. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have a great Wednesday, midweek, all that jazz. Take it easy, stay safe, stay well. I'll see you hopefully in another stream. And if not, I was gonna joke and say you're dead to me, but I can't even joke about caring that much. If you don't show up in another stream, I respect you all the same. Alright, until next stream.